backwards. You see a lot of people do it, either with a pulley or with this machine. So I do want to simulate that a bit. So it's a jerkiness and throwing it back. That's it. That's through faster movement. That's the most common thing you see when you see somebody on a seated rowing machine. Okay. So you've seen the wrong way, and you now know the right way. This is another alternative to the one that we've just seen before. So if you've got a gym that doesn't have a seated rowing machine like that one, then you could use a pulley. So the pulley will be pulling from this direction. This bar is called a D bar, and it's quite a wide one. So you can see it's just a short range movement, but it's really just engaging these retractor muscles, which is where we're aiming at. So in other words, we don't need to get a maximum stretch on the lats anymore. We've covered that base. We're trying to get a contraction here and a good focus on those muscles. So you could use a D-bar like that. It's better to get a mid-position grip. It really does engage these muscles, and it allows you to bring your elbows up so you could engage these retractors better. So that's a useful alternative. This next exercise is for the lower back. This is called a hyperextension machine. I've had this one specially built. It's got a pad which goes over the upper back, which is adjustable in length for different sizes of torsos. You can see we've got this locking pads which lock your lower legs in, and you're pivoting around this point, and you can also load it up here. So obviously if you've not got this set up, you can still use a hyperextension bench. All decent gyms should have a hyperextension bench. You can either load up with a place across your chest, but if you watch this particular movement, this is really set up well. You can even unlock it. So, starting off in that position, coming back past horizontal. A lot of people say you shouldn't come back past horizontal. Don't believe them. The muscles will engage fully when you come back and just get a maximum contraction. So we're aiming for these lower spinal muscles now. So we're hitting this area. Again, a good pause at the end of the range, and a full contraction and a pause at the top. And a controlled descent as well. So it's really direct. It's probably the most direct movement you can do for you to engage your lower back. The first exercise we showed you was the hyperextension, which is an isolation movement for the lower back. Now, obviously the main compound movement for the lower back, but it also engages the glutes, the hamstrings, and quite a lot of other muscles as well, including the quads, is the deadlift. That's the standard deadlift. So if you see the powerlifting type deadlift, it's pretty non-specific for the lower back, although it probably does engage it to a large degree. But very often, if people haven't got a decent hyperextension machine, but they've got a barbell, and if you can stand on a box, we can do this. This emphasises the outer range of movement. So it's going to work the lower back right at the very bottom. So we're just going to demonstrate that. So as he drops down, John, he's going to uncurl his back, or curl his back down, sorry. Curl his back down and then uncurl it coming up. And then uncurl coming back up. So there's still tension on there, and then down again. So nice and controlled, slowly, no jerking. So most of the stress is being taken through the lower back now. You're going to get some upper hamstring and glute involvement, but he's going to mainly feel it by curling his back and uncurling it again. So we're stretching the lumbar spine down and having to engage these muscles at the bottom. So we're mainly aiming for this area here. So people that have a very weak lower back, this is great for development of that as well. So as I say, I would prefer to isolate the lower back by having that's the reason I had that machine built. That hyperextension built, and you can always load weight onto that. This one is still a compound movement, but a little bit more isolated on the lower back. It's an alternative, so you do one or the other. So with regard to the abdominals, I'm of the view that you only need to train them once a week. A lot of people train them 3-4 times a week, but from a bodybuilding point of view, just treat them like another body part. I mean, Charlotte was training hers twice a week, and she's now training once a week, and they've responded, and they're a lot more pronounced now than they ever were before. So the other thing about training the abdominals is you want to try and isolate them as much as you can. So rather than doing movements that involve the obliques and lots of other muscle groups like the hip flexors, we don't do a full sit-up. So we get in this position to work the upper abdominals, and it's a tiny movement, so it's only a small movement. So we're going to show you that now, and then we'll show you how to load it up. So from that position, she's just going to breathe out, and she's literally just going to curl to there, okay? And then hold that position for about 3 seconds. You get maximum tension, and then back again. Come back, hold it, and relax. That's it. So it's that tiny movement, that's a crunch. So it doesn't involve a full sit-up at all. If you involved a full sit-up, you'll be using these muscles strongly and taking the pressure away from the abdominals to a degree. So this is working the upper abdominals, the upper section of abdominals there, mainly isolating them. You can see them working now. That's it. So again, we do the same kind of rep range that we've discussed about on the protocol, and the same way as well. Now, in order to offer resistance there, she'd either hold onto a plate behind her head or across her chest, or you could actually use a pulley behind, or you could use bands. So she could hold onto a band behind and use that as a resistance and pull up and hold, and that would engage the muscles even more strongly then. So that's the upper abdominal exercise. We'll also show you an alternative on an abdominal machine I've got. So now we'll move on to lower abdominals. So for the lower abdominals we need to lie on the bench. I'll show you an alternative for this. So now we're going to teach you how to isolate the lower abdominals. So this is a companion exercise to the one we've just done, so you do both exercises for the abdominals. And I'll show you how most people train the lower abs, and I'll teach you what's wrong about it, and then we'll do the right method. Okay? So this is how most people train their lower abs. They'll do a straight leg raise method. They'll drop down, maybe even lower than that, and then lift both legs up into that position. Lower down again. And the muscles that's most used there is the hip flexors here and the rectus femoris here. She'll feel it strongly in her thigh muscles as she does that. She's still engaging the lower abs but not isolating them, so all these other muscles are acting as prime movers as well in order for that movement to occur. Okay, the other disadvantage is that if she comes down to this level and she's under stress there's a lot of stress on these joints here. So there's shearing effects on these sacroiliac joints here and the bottom lumbar spinal joints. So if you've got anybody with a lumbar problem, that's one that you wouldn't give them. So we're going to show you how to isolate the movement now. So similar to isolate, cross the legs over, keep the legs in a vertical position, and she's going to engage the lower abs, and she's going to curl her pelvis up. So you watch your pelvis curl up, just 2 inches, that's it, hold it, lower abs engaged, hip flexors in a shortened position but not really engaging too strongly. Okay, 2 inches up, hold it, hold for 3 seconds, maximum tension, lower down slowly, control it, a bit more under control on the lowering position. So up, hold it, down slowly. Now just before she touches the bottom, she's still under tension. Okay, so lower a bit down, still under tension there. Now lift again. So she's still under tension at the bottom. It's a very specific movement, but only a small trajectory of movement, only 2 inches. Okay, and that is contracting as she lifts the pelvis up. So as you're rotating the pelvis up, it's contracting the lower abs maximally. And if you want to load that up, you can either push up against some weight here or get your partner to push down on your feet. Most people find that just the weight of the legs is enough and you can generate enough tension. So without any machine, these 2 exercises would be your abdominal routine. And as I say, you do it the same way that you do any other body parts, once a week. So we've got a machine here. This is a pulse machine, but it's ideal because you can adjust the fulcrum, so you can adjust this arm, this lever arm. We're going to show you how you can adapt it to try and work the lower abs and then the upper abs as well. So we make the arm quite long, so it's right up against near his clavicles. And as you see, John's taking it right back. so it's beyond the vertical position, so it's tension on there. Okay, his arms above his head, it tends to encourage him to do a jackknife position. So he's really just jackknifing, he's not trying to curl forwards, he's just bringing his upper body in a straight line past the vertical and then holding it there, and he'll feel his lower abs working more then. So he's not curling over, which would engage the upper abs. This is like a jackknife position, and this is how you can adapt one of these machines. A lot of gyms have this type of machine, and so you'll feel when he comes back past the vertical he's still got tension on, and when you come back make sure that the weights don't kiss, so you've still got tension on right from the outset, and then you pull in. So you don't bottom out, as we call it, we don't let the weights bottom out. That's bottomed out now. Okay, so and again you do the same principle you'd apply to all the other exercises. Same rep range, whether you were doing the FG fibres, your rep range will be 6 to 8. And then if you're going to do the oxidative fibres, it will be 12 to 15s. If you're doing a slow negative, that slow part of the movement would take 7 seconds. Okay, so again you can incorporate all those methods with this exercise. Now if we're going to change this into an upper abdominal machine now, all we need to do is lower that fulcrum down a bit, so it's down to about there. And we still start from that backward position there, and what he's going to do is he's going to literally curl over now into a more of a curled position, you can see. So it comes back to about the vertical position now, so there's still tension on the upper abs, and then you're curling over, engaging the upper abs, holding that curled position there, that's it. So it's only a small movement. This is more upper abs orientated than lower. So basically it's that jackknife position for the first one, and then a more of a curled position for the upper abs. And you can do all the abs on one machine now.